Well, hi everybody, and welcome to another piano video here on the Merriam Pianos YouTube channel. My name is Stu Harrison, and we have been going on to Amazon, buying some of the most popular items that we could find on there, getting them back into our studio here, and evaluating for you whether we really think that they're worth the money, whether they're a decent musical instrument or not. We know they're not going to be the same as an 88-note weighted piano from some of the big companies out there. That's not our expectation. That's not why we're doing the videos. We're just trying to do a bit more of an expert review so that if you are on Amazon, if you are on some of these other websites and thinking to yourself, is this actually worthwhile to go down this road of a discounted product? Is it still going to give me a worthwhile experience? That's what we're here to tell you, or at least help you figure out. So we're going to unbox this RockJam. I have never seen this product before. I've never played it. This is literally going to be an actual first impression for me, and we are going to share it here with you. So let's get started and open up the RockJam. Okay, so we've got some goodies here. What do we have? Guess those are headphones. A little basic, but they may just do the trick. User manual. Most likely I will be taking a look at that. That feels like a bench to me. I'm standing, so I'm not going to bother opening that part of it up. So this, I'm sure, is the keyboard itself. And so there is a keyboard stand as well. Now, we don't have any need for that today, but as you can see, this is a full package. It's coming with a bench, it's coming with a stand, and we've got a keyboard. So here is the instrument all opened up. Now, we haven't got this turned on yet, but we are going to certainly get it plugged in, get it set up, start to play around with this, and share with you what we find. But my first impressions are that the fit and finish on the outside of this is definitely a step above what I've seen some of the other lower cost all-in-one packages on Amazon. So I'm hopeful that this is going to be a pretty cool experience, that what we're going to find is this is actually a nice, affordable way to get somebody excited about the idea of piano in their life. And it's okay if that doesn't come in an 88-note weighted package, you know. Us piano players always like to think that's the only way to start, it's the only way to taste an instrument is to go for the full meal deal right off the bat, but we all know that that's not always practical. So let's see what this has in store. We're going to get it plugged in. We'll be right back. We've got it all set up. We are in front of the RockJam RJ561. I don't know if there was an RJ560 or an RJ482, or not sure what significance that has, although I do think this is a 61 key edition, so I suppose that's what the 61 stands for. Compared to other instruments that come in under the $200 mark, this one has some cool stuff going on. I know anytime I sit down into a basic keyboard and within a few minutes I've got a smile across my face, something's going right here. So it's not a perfect machine, but with all of these machines you always have to keep in mind that this is an extremely inexpensive instrument and really is designed to expose the player to some of the fun that you can have behind a piano. This is not supposed to be a lifetime instrument. This is supposed to be really more of an exposure toy or an exposure tool to get people excited possibly about learning pianos. There are parts about this instrument that will prevent it from ever being an effective tool on a stage, even for situations where an inexpensive keyboard is called for. There may be some better options for that. But there is a lot about this one that I think is executed better than some of the other inexpensive pianos that we have reviewed from Amazon. So I'm going to start from the top of the list and go down on what I think works really well from here. First of all, you don't need the manual for very much. And when you do need to consult the manual is only something like 15 or 20 small pages. It's written really well. There isn't anything unclear about the manual. And that's saying something. A lot of these inexpensive pianos come in from manufacturers in China. And what I find is that some of these importers don't really spend the time to make sure that the translation has been done really well, whether it's being translated from Chinese into English, Chinese into Russian, Chinese into German, I mean, you name it. Sometimes the translations are just done pretty clumsily. It seems sometimes that it's just been fed into Google Translate as a way to kind of shortcut getting the manual done in a really nice, technical, succinct way. This manual, the one I'm reading, which is in English, has clearly been written by somebody who has an extremely strong command of both English as well as what is expected from keyboard players. So that's plus number one. Second, the layout is super clear. Every single button is labeled with a function that makes sense, that doesn't leave you scratching your head and trying to figure out exactly what does what. The tones are very clearly labeled in the top left, and I guess there's about 199 of them to choose from. You've got your rhythms, which are labeled in your top right. Again, super clear and very, very easy to navigate. You've got your kind of your user interface area where you can punch in the different tones on the left, rhythms on the right. Big buttons that tell you whether you're selecting the tone or whether you're selecting the rhythm. Metronome button is really clear. Splitting the keyboard into dual keyboard mode, very, very clear. All of your volume buttons, easy to access and well labeled as well. So, you know, in terms of a opening user interface, something that's inviting, something that's not intimidating, something that doesn't have you feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm missing all kinds of functions because I don't want to get into this super complicated key command stuff. This avoids all of that. It's, you know, the first impression is very inviting and easy to use. So I'm really liking and appreciating that. The tones themselves, and this is where we get into some of the limitations of the instrument. And it's not a limitation that's completely tied to the price point. There are other instruments here that don't get into this limitation. And the limitation I'm talking about is an extremely limited polyphony and a pretty bad delay in terms of the tone generator activating. And so I'm going to just demonstrate that right now. If we go to just our root grand piano, so there's no delay in the tone generator, or at least a very, very minimal one when you're just playing one note at a time. The minute that you start activating two or more notes at the same time simultaneously, you get into this really weird stepping effect where it can't really start more than one or two notes simultaneously, so it'll kind of stagger them. So you kind of hear how it's being rolled a little bit. And this is the deal breaker when it comes to using this in any kind of a professional setting, because I know there are some wedding bands out there all around the world where, you know, the standard of the instrument doesn't need to be incredibly high. You know, you don't have to walk onto stage with a $2,000–$3,000 keyboard to participate in a wedding band in various countries and cultures around the world. Something somewhat basic is totally fine. But to me as a musician, no matter what budget you've got, not getting a simultaneous chord when you press that down would just be musically mind-numbingly frustrating if you had to do that every night for 2 or 3 hours. But for somebody who's just starting, is that really going to be a deal breaker? I don't think so. The other thing about the sound itself is that they've actually got, you know, they've loaded this as the PCM, basic PCM chip they've got going on in here. But they have managed to load it up with a kind of, sort of believable decay. And the more notes you play at once, the more staggered it gets, and I think this has a max polyphony of 8. When I try and play 9 or 10 notes, they're just notes that my ear's not even hearing happening. So I think we've got a polyphony of around 8 going on. So that's the tone section of this instrument. I mean, you've heard the acoustic grand piano. I'll just give you a few other examples so you get a sense of the tone. Here is Rhodes. Not bad. Let's try the xylophone. 13. Okay, that's bad. So we're not, you know, not gonna, there's hits and misses here. Let's try drawbar organ. Yeah, there we go. So there's some decent stuff, and as I said, there's 199. We're not going to go through all 199 right here. We're just kind of taking some random stabs to just generally test authenticity level, quality level. Let's see what the flute is like. Not very flute-like. Pan flute, let's see. Pretty good. So you see what I mean. You've got some that actually manage to kind of nail the general essence of an instrument. You've got others that aren't quite on the mark. But with 199 to choose from, I'm sure you're going to find enough in there that you can have some fun. Now let's talk about the rhythms, because there's an equal amount of selection on the rhythm side. So let's get into some rhythm, slow rock 1. Because why not? So to start the rhythm, nice easy start and stop button. There you go. There's a nice 12/8. And so we can play over top of that, of course. But then you can also turn on the auto accompaniment, like most other digital pianos that have accompaniment function, and that comes in the form of both single finger, just one note, so you're pretty much limited to major chords, or fingered, which is probably a little more useful because then you can get major, minor, dominant. That's probably it, major, minor, dominant. So here we go. So the annoying part going on there is we've got a significant delay in its response to the change in the chord. You could get around that. So an experienced musician would know enough to realize that and start anticipating the chords by, say, a beat or a beat and a half. for somebody who is new to the instrument, who this is designed to accommodate, that would actually, I think, be a little bit frustrating. So as a first impression, that particular feature, I would call that somewhat poorly executed. The rhythms or the quality of the rhythm itself, if you're just going to play around with a single chord, which, to be honest, is likely the scenario where most beginners would be, you'd probably just be, you know, jamming out on, say, an F and hanging out there for quite a while. And there's a little fill and sync, and you can turn the chord off anytime you want to. All of that's great. There's also some very, very basic recording functions on here. Like, so basic that, to be honest, it's a little bit of a stretch to call it a recording function. It's really something that allows you to play like one or two quick licks and hear them played back, but there's no way to store it, there's no way to export it, and it's limited to something like 80 notes. So, I mean, you could use that up in literally 3 or 4 bars if you were trying. But nonetheless, it does do what it says it does. So if you press record and then play, and then play it back, not quite in the same tempo, but we did get the same notes. It also has the same type of function for rhythm program. So if you wanted to have the fun of kind of designing your own drum track, you can record about 2 bars worth of a basic drum rhythm, play that back, and then play over top of it. You can't integrate it in with the chord, the auto chord thing. That's not going to work, but you can do this. Ish. There's also a teaching system on here. I get what they were going for this, and it is, I mean, you're a little limited to what you can do when you just got a basic LCD display here. More or less what you've got is 50 songs. They don't have the songs listed anywhere in the manual. That's a little bit odd. I went looking for it. It's not on the cheat sheet either, so maybe it's on a website somewhere, or maybe this is something they just didn't figure was going to matter that much. But there's 50 songs in there that you can access as a teaching system. And there's these 3 buttons, or 3 modes in the teaching system. It says single course. Basically what it does is it just plays the song, and you can more or less just noodle all over it. So it gives you sort of the background, and you can do whatever you want on it. So you can press any note and it's going to sort of slot into the right note, so you can, I guess, have the satisfaction of feeling like you're playing along. I don't know that song very well. Sync course is where it basically just goes up until you've played the right note. But the one where it gives you the example of what you're supposed to be doing is called concert course. They might have been able to come up with some more descriptive labels for that, but I mean, whatever. Concert course. Along, but if you just let it go at the first, it'll give you the example of what you're supposed to be doing. And seems the minute that I start playing, it cuts out the melody and lets me take over. Yep. So that's the lesson program. Very tiny little display. I'm not sure how useful that is going to be to anyone, especially if you can't read music, because it requires that you be able to more or less read these tiny little things, you know, notes on the page, or notes on the staff rather. But I guess if you were working in concert with, you know, a parent who maybe had some musical experience, I could see how that could be turned into some constructive lesson or constructive learning. There is a keyboard percussion, some buttons there, and with the press of the button you can turn the full keyboard into a percussion canvas. I guess we'll call it a percussion canvas, such as this. And then back to... There's a headphone jack. There is a place for a microphone. I haven't seen that you can actually modulate the microphone in any way, so I think it's just so that you can hear yourself amplified. And the onboard speakers are pretty decent and pretty capable for what they are. So here we've got the RockJam, you know, RJ561. In Canada, this is around $180. In the United States, it's probably like $130, $140, something like that. So we're not talking about a huge amount of dollars. And what I have seen here is a far more usable, a far more navigable instrument than what I've seen out of some of the other instruments, specifically on Amazon, specifically, you know, selling for this price. Some of the off-brand or lesser-known brands that are doing these all-in-one packages. I'd have to say this is the best that I have seen so far. Does that mean that it's the best instrument you're going to get for this kind of budget? Well, we are going to be doing another video, so look out for it on the channel, where we're going to compare all of these and really find out if you want to be under $200 and you're looking for kind of an enhanced musical toy or some sort of an exposure experience for you or your kids. Really, what are you getting and what's the best for the money? So we're going to be doing that shortly, but this has been our look at the RockJam RJ561, kind of all-in-one package, available on a few different websites, but I think notably on Amazon. Thanks so much for checking it out. If you enjoyed what you saw, if you appreciated what you heard, subscribe, because we would love to see you back for more as a viewer, as a commenter, most importantly, as a member of our community. Really like to see that grow. And it's awesome to know that so many people around the world are loving and appreciating everything about piano, because that's our world here at Merriam Pianos. So we will see you back for more videos shortly. My name is Stu Harrison. Thanks so much for watching.